Well, thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Finance Minister, Senator Cormann. Minister, in his budget speech last night, the Treasurer concluded by saying, and I quote, "As Australians, we must not leave our children worse off. That's not fair. That is not our way." At the same time, your budget introduced staggeringly punitive measures for young people, especially those struggling to find work. My question, on behalf of the 730,000 young people affected by changes to Newstart, is as follows. How is a younger person who is currently looking for work but lives in an area of high youth unemployment and has received no income at all for 6 months supposed to eat, supposed to pay rent and supposed to clothe themselves? Minister, is condemning someone to poverty now our way?
The Minister for Finance, Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank the Greens for a question on the budget today. And it seems that the other side over there is not all that interested in asking questions directly about the budget. Let me just say this. The Treasurer is, of course, absolutely right. We do need to do the right thing by our children and by our grandchildren. And guess what? Funding our consumption today, funding our lifestyle today, funding our quality of life today based on borrowing, on debt and deficits, forcing our children to fund the cost of our standard of living today and pay it back with interest is not doing the right thing by our children and grandchildren.
Senator Cormann, just resume your seat. Order. Now, when there's silence, we'll proceed. People ask the question, they'd like to hear the answer. They're entitled to hear the answer. Senator Cormann, continue.
As a result of the waste and the mismanagement of the Labor Party in government, we are in a situation now where we have to borrow $1 billion a month, $1 billion a month, just to fund the interest on the debt that they've accumulated in government. Just imagine, that is like a family putting their groceries on the credit card, putting their wine and their other utilities or whatever onto the credit card, and getting their children and grandchildren to pay the price for it. Actually, it's worse. It is the same as putting your groceries on the credit card, running the credit card up and borrowing more money to pay the interest on your credit card so that your kids eventually down the track have to pay the bill. That is reducing opportunity for our children and our grandchildren. We want to create opportunity for our children and grandchildren. We want to build a stronger economy where everyone has the opportunity to get ahead. We want to build a stronger economy where people have more opportunity.
Whilst you only have a short amount of time left to answer the question, I ask you to resume your seat for the simple reason there are too many people trying to talk across the chamber. It's disorderly. You are entitled to be heard in silence, and Senator Natale is entitled to hear the answer. Order. Continue, Senator Cormann.
Now, in relation to the question about young people and the dole, on this side of the chamber, we don't think it's appropriate for somebody to walk straight out of the school onto the dole. We actually think that it is appropriate for a young person to either earn or learn. We think that it is appropriate for a young person—
Your time has expired. Senator Natale.
Minister, your budget carries with it the strong message that this is a budget for future generations and that you want to see young people either earning or learning. But changes in the budget mean that the cost of a degree from some universities will now skyrocket, with some courses soon to cost more than $100,000, and with young people facing a further hit with the interest to student loans set to become more expensive. Minister, if this is a budget for future generations, why have you punished them and let the big end of town off scot-free?
Senator Cormann.
Well, thank you very much, Mr President. I completely reject that last assertion. But let me just make this point. This is a budget which ensures that today's generation funds its own costs. Now, when it comes to education, what we are doing is pursue a very exciting reform in higher education, a very exciting reform in higher education. We don't have a single university right now in the world's top 20. We want to have a university in the top 20 in the world. We should have a university in the top 20 in the world.
Senator Cormann, once again, resume your seat on my left and on my right. On my left. Order. Debating this across the chamber. Senator Carr, Senator Ronaldson, debating this across the chamber now does not assist question time at all. After 3 o'clock is the time to debate it. Senator Cormann is entitled to be heard in silence. Order. Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The voice of Pyongyang clearly doesn't understand about the free market. They're good at interjecting even though they don't know how to ask a question. We are making sure that universities are able to compete by deregulating fees. Some fees might go up, but a lot of fees will go down, and there'll be more opportunity for students across Australia who are able to borrow 100% of the cost of their degree from the taxpayer.
Senator Natale.
Minister, Australians of our vintage have been fortunate enough to grow up with the security of a decent social safety net, access to free universities, to universal health care, affordable housing.
Order! Some common decency has got to be given to the person asking the question.
Can we,
Order! Order! Senator Di Natale is asking the question.
We're resetting the clock?
No, continue. I'll give you ample opportunity to ask your question.
So, Minister, given that our vintage has been fortunate enough to grow up with a decent social safety net and free education, universal health care, doesn't that actually make us, each of us here in this chamber, a generation of leaners rather than lifters?
Minister.
Coming from you of all people.
No, just resume. On my right. Order. The Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would ask the Senator to have a close look at our budget papers. And what he will see in the budget papers is that the spending growth trajectory that we inherited from the Labor Party is unsustainable. This generation right now is living beyond its means. This generation right now is forcing future generations to fund our cost of living. This generation, as a result of the waste and the mismanagement of the Labor Party, is forcing our children and grandchildren to pay the price for our entitlements with interest. What we want to do is replace the old age of entitlement with a new age of opportunity where everybody has the opportunity to get ahead. That is what I'm here about, that is what every one of my colleagues is here about, and that is what we will achieve in government.